Hello, it's me, CJ Miller. I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana. Across the Red River is beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana. I am in my bedroom, so just making a little video. I want you to come check us out in Shreveport, Bossier. Lots of fun things. I'm really excited for the farmers market we're going to have in a couple of weeks, and all sorts of fun things. I want to talk about the movie The Devil Wears Prada too. It's hard to talk about a sequel without talking about the original. Meryl Streep, as far as I know, she's only done two sequels. She did it was more than a cameo, but she was in well, not really. It was kind of a cameo. I don't know. She was in Mamma Mia 2, Here We Go Again, you know, which was the sequel to Mamma Mia. Uh, but that movie, uh, she was kind of back as a memory, a ghost or an angel or something like that, uh, because she had died. For the movie, she was dead, so her appearance was like just coming back for her presence or whatever. So, spoiler alert for that if you haven't seen it. But and then there's of course the Devil Wears Prada too. Uh, and I remember when the first movie came out, and I thought it was a little bit fluffy. It was a good movie. It was a really good movie, and I think that Meryl Streep did great work in that role. That she took fluff and she made it iconic, basically. Um, because without Meryl Streep, it would have been Anne Hathaway, kind of she was coming out of the princess roles that she was known for, and this was her, career woman phase. When she did a few movies after that, she did a movie with uh, Meryl Streep's buddy Bob De Niro, from The Deer Hunter, and there were a few of these movies that were for me. It was like you know, uh, that filled in the template for the working girl, the the secretary coming in and then rising to the top kind of thing. Uh, and of course, the movie she did with Bob De Niro, Anne Hathaway was the company owner, and then Robert De Niro was coming back in after coming out of retirement and assisting her and everything like that. So it was kind of like him coming up. But anyway, what else? What else? What else? And with this movie, The Devil Wears Prada, though, it's sometime after that. Like it's been about 16 or 17 years since the first one, and yeah, uh, Meryl Streep took what could have been a fluffy part and made it nuanced. In just a changing of a line here or there of dialogue and a certain inflection in her voice. You know, and then of course. We get to this new movie, and it's basically you get to see it kind of comes full circle. You do get that nice bow of the happy ending uh, for the pertinent characters. You do get that. So that's it is that you get that feel good ending that you got in The Devil Wears Prada. But so the premise of this is that uh, the character Andy comes back to work uh, to help uh, the Runway magazine, which is basically a magazine uh, that gets put out, but it's not circulating like it used to because most of everything, is digital. So it's kind of like it talks about how the industry, um, journalism in general, but you can apply that to just anything across the board, is kind of going digital. but you can apply it to your factory jobs. So that's been going on since the 70s, right? Industry comes in and is doing the work, robotics and stuff like that of previous factory workers and everything like that. If the work doesn't happen overseas, it's being done by robotics, that are probably made by other factories overseas or whatever. So it kind of talks about that. It kind of talks about the plight of the worker, but in this way, it's talking about kind of like the upper echelon. These are people concerned with like high fashion, which I'm a gay man. I love, right? What's not to love about that? So you get that fairy tale element of being able to see your people wearing like the most awesome costumes. And this one, they just kind of like stepped it up almost to an impractical level because they went from fashion magazines that you would look through and use to inspire your look at home, so to straight up couture, just people living in couture, walking around in couture fashion, uh, beyond cotillion, just wearing it, whatever. It's weird, because it's like uh, to see. Well, there's a fashional. I'm sorry, a functional component to art now, whereas it used to be that couture people would wear on the runway, but it was mainly just to inspire. Uh, you know what you would buy. And very few people would actually wear couture. Even runway people, on the red carpet premieres and everything like that, they don't always get a couture. Like the closest thing they don't always get that, opportunity to really break out the couture, and like maybe like the Met Gala might be like an event that you get to really just do that, but not too many other places. Uh, and just that you get to live in the fashion. Well, so yeah, it's kind of cool. So there's that. There's that element's still there. What's not here is the first movie talked a lot about romance, the characters having like a romance. Well, these characters are like, they're all of a certain age, they're all older now. They've been through those life lessons of that young adult, post college, just really being able to focus in there, trying to manage their romantic lives with their work life. See, they've already learned those lessons, so we're not really getting that. um, and that would have been a cop out almost for these characters to come along and focus on the younger crop of characters coming up that used to have their jobs, and focus heavily on that. So you would have like the older people just kind of like coaching the new people through that navigation. That's not really where the story goes. It actually continues uh, with the characters, um, the Stanley Tucci, the Meryl Streep, the Emily Blunt, and Anne Hathaway. They're the core characters of this sequel, and it just kind of follows their trajectory. And you know, and you do get a dramatic uh, bit to it, because you get to see, oh my God, the industry kind of is changing to a place that maybe the format's not going to really matter. So that's just like people's jobs, like if everything's digital, you know, uh, whatever. It's like you go through all that ups and downs. There's a very dramatic part to it that's going to hit with a lot of people, even outside of journalism, even outside of fashion. It's a bit late in the game to address it, because it's something that we've all been looking at for, uh, 20 years anyway. But still, it's an interesting story to tell. Uh, it's a story that could have been told uh, 16 years ago, and the movie came out in well, no, 20 years really. The movie came out in 2006, right? So, and so it's really been 20 years. It's not been 16 years. It's been about 20 years. I don't know how long this sat on the shelf or whatever, and or whatever. But anyway, yeah, whatever. But this is a story that could have been told 20 years ago, especially the part about everything starting to happen on computers. It's just that we weren't carrying around supercomputers in our pockets. We had internet in every home by then, or certainly right down the street in every internet cafe, everyone could access it. Um, it had not quite turned into this, you know, but it was right on the verge of it because uh, we were right on the verge of 4G technology, uh, and and that was going to be that's kind of really when the Twitter and the Facebook and did it start out being Friendster? I think Facebook started out being Friendster and then became Facebook or whatever. But anyway, uh, and we had this conversation with LimeWire. What were the regulations and rules when it came to like intellectual property? And a lot of that is what's going on, except those things have been settled by this point. It's like it really doesn't matter who has the rights to the work because it's a lot of it's going to be created by uh, AI, artificial intelligence, and so that's kind of the story that's being told here, and in the very workplace comedy drama kind of thing. There's some what's funny in here is looking at what happens, say, in a uh, typical work day and all the amusements that those amusing moments that happen between people in the relationships, because ultimately these movies are about workplace relationships, uh, not romantic relationships, but people just navigating that. So this kind of steers away. They bring back some of the people, some of Andy's friends, on the sidelines to be like the same thing that they were in the first movie. There's the guy who was the boyfriend and everything, but everybody else, that circle of friends, they basically kind of related. Uh, they were our avatar, the people watching. They were our avatar to the story because they were watching the story, and like, how's this girl going to navigate to and from, and this and that, and wow, is it fun having all these bags and gimmies from fashion, but also our friend, she's getting kind of pulled into this fashion world. At this point, that story's not being told anymore. She's not worried about a boyfriend because she's already had that experience. Um, uh, and there are those characters. There is that romance, but it's not the main thing. There's not a conflict of it, because at this point, 20 years later, if you haven't negotiated how to work and have a relationship and a home life, you're not gonna get it. So yeah. But I think, the Miranda Priestley character. See, I knew that this was an iconic movie, the first one, when I started getting spam calls and people using the name Miranda Priestley to try to scam money for whatever they try to scam. you know, uh, did you guys remember that? Did you get those phone calls? We're calling from Senator such and such, from the office of Miranda Priestley, and she's going to be da da da. And she can, yeah, and then they try to get you to call and all that kind of stuff. It was crazy. But yeah, when I knew that the name had that kind of recognition, I was like, I knew the name. That's Miranda Priestley. That's the Meryl Streep character from The Devil Wears Prada. Anyway, so it's a good movie. The novelty of this world is gone. When the movie came out, this was you have to remember, I'm an MTV 80s kid, born in the 70s, raised in the 80s, and the supermodel era was in full bloom because that kind of started from like the mid 60s going into uh, the 70s and 80s. That was supermodel time. Uh, and so, yeah, MTV music video was as much about visual as it was about the audio. The image was as important as the sound. Uh, and the 80s were a very fun fashion time to just be aware of fashion, even though we were poor. And so we made up our own fashion. Basically, it was more like we just took what was there and we combined it in the ways that we could combine it. They taught us if we were going to roll up our pant legs in a French roll, or if we were just going to like cut them off, or what we were going to do. Were we going to, you know, be super pressed and spotless? I could never pull that off. I tried a few times in my life, but I don't do I don't do flawless. I'll tell you what I do well. I do total train wreck. I do that. So yeah, but yeah. So we get to learn from all that. So yeah, but this movie is fun. It's you can think of it as comedy drama. Uh, Work drom com, or whatever. I don't know, but um, it's not super dramatic as far as like there's no like monstrous villain. It's just basically dog eat dog and people trying to get through. This movie plays a lot more like Working Girl. Uh, yeah, Sigourney Weaver did the role of Miranda Priestley. That's a movie that would be interesting to go back and revisit. Working Girl, all this time later. Uh, what? Yeah, what is the actress? Sigourney Weaver kind of stole the show. I think Meg Griffin. No, Meg Griffin is from. No, that's I got that wrong, didn't I? That was for Family Guy. Oh my God, what was her name? Uh, Tippi Hedren's daughter, Don Johnson's ex-wife, and Antonio Banderas' ex-wife, Meg Ryan. I don't know. That's not right either, right? Meg Ryan was from the romantic When Harry Met Sally or something like that, right? My God, who am I thinking of? Ugh, it doesn't matter. But that would be a fun movie to go back and revisit. You know, Carly Simon did the soundtrack, "Let the River Run" or whatever. So anyway, this is a fun movie. It really is a female-driven movie, but anyone who is uh, struggling with um, change within their industry uh, and progress within their industry and the effects of that are going to be able to relate to it. Not necessarily is it a happy thing. It's not. I'll tell you something that was true. There was the movie. This was Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks, and they did the movie You've Got Mail, and she was a small children's book store owner, and then there was a big corporation coming in to build a big, huge, like bookstore, a big conglomerate bookstore kind of thing. And even those are passe. When really, Barnes and Noble, they're smaller now. Books a Million, they're smaller now. But this was a great big giant bookstore, big chain of a bookstore that was going to come in, and it was going to take over her little children's bookstore. And so they were having that was the backdrop between that romance. And what happened in that one is that she did lose her store, but he's like, well, I'll just bring you in and hire you, and you can run a department, a children's department in the big store. You can run so, yeah, compromise, sell out. She did become part of the Borg, uh, and well, that's not really what's getting told here in The Devil Wears Prada 2. The plot of The Devil Wears Prada 2. Did you ever see the movie Burlesque with Cher and um, oh my God, the singer, who's not Britney Spears? Um, What a Girl Wants, that one. Anyway, I forget her name. Um, It'll come to me. Christina Aguilera. So yeah, um, and how they came back with, their thing was like how to save the burlesque venue, and how they had to run some channels to do that. So this they're trying to save in this movie. They're trying to save the Runway magazine from all the different changes it is having to go through, and it's potentially it changes hands two or three times or whatever. It's like, oh my god, this is changing hands more than Jabot Cosmetics, back in the day, or in a soap opera fashion almost. But it happens in the course of a couple of hours instead of a few years. So it was like, wow. Well, anyway, uh, yeah, there's that. But it's all the I'll tell you, it's a goes back to in the 70s and 80s, the teen movies where the teens were trying to save the roller boogie. They're trying to save the roller rink so they can like have their roller boogie contests, and save their hangout, or that movie where they're trying to save One Crazy Summer, where they're trying to like uh, uh, save the one business by winning the regatta around Nantucket or something like that. It's all those types of formulary movies that came out. These are just grown up versions of that. And I'll tell you, it goes all the way back, as far as I know, to a movie called Giant, and that was Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson, uh, James Dean, and it was just a 3.5 hour soap opera, basically about um, social progress, but to the backdrop of industry progress, and changing in attitudes, and also changing in industry, and you know, uh, But the Devil Wears Prada is more of a very it's a in a way it's almost insulting. I could see it as being almost insulting to the characters that are playing it, because they're women, and Stanley Tucci, uh, in this fashion business. But who are they trying to placate to, and who are they trying to appeal to? But a group of very, very rich men who own these mega corporations. There's the Lucy Liu character, though, is good. They let there be like one mega influential artist woman who's philanthropic of the artist, and it kind of sets up the how her involvement kind of sets up a potential for the Devil Wears Prada 3, because they're like, well, she's gonna be hands off, at least for now, and you have that, and it's like, wow, does that mean that there's going to be trouble later if they're going to do another installment or whatever? Personally, I think the story's been told, and there probably doesn't need to be uh, another story, but this one, I'm glad I watched it. It was fun. It was good. And that's my review of The Devil Wears Prada 2. Now, the rating. Um, you know what? You probably could go with the little s on this one. And for me, rated lowercase s means that you could stream it, on your paid streaming subscription. It's going to be out in about whatever anyway. I don't see a reason to go out, and if you're out and you want to do something fun with the girls, or you just want a nice comedy or something like that, sure, go to the movie, see it. But the movie itself, this is not that great Meryl Streep drama that we haven't gotten one of those in a while. We haven't gotten uh, a Manchurian Candidate. We have not gotten a Heartburn. We haven't gotten the French Lieutenant's Woman. We haven't gotten the Deer Hunter. We haven't gotten anything like that in a very long time, and I mean a very long time. Uh, and it would be fun to you know uh, to see this movie, but you could just see it on lowercase s. your streaming service at home. You really don't need to go out and make a big night of dinner and a movie or something like that, unless you have a special interest, you know. Uh, you love fashion. That's great. You're going to get your fix of fashion, but also the looks in this movie, the fashion that are in these movies, they're already over. We've already had that. We just had a very shimmery, glimmering season a couple of years ago where I went through and I just bought a bunch of stuff. We're about to move into a more textured look. Less about shimmery, big glossy metal built into the fabric, and we're gonna go back to um, more practical, functional look. We already had that thing, where with the paillette jackets and stuff like that. I've still got a paillette jacket, by the way. We've already had all that. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting, you know. Um, but these looks, they're there and they look great, but they're already a little bit, you know, they've already been done a little bit. Now, this is what's is changing about this is that there are people who are hyper involved with fashion, but there's offices around where the Runway magazine happens, and not everybody in that office is dressed head to toe in Chanel. Only the top dogs really get that. Uh, it's a lot of office assistants and stuff like that, and they wish they could get it, but they really don't. They don't spend a lot of time with the assistants, what they used to be called the Emilys, the newer people. They just kind of like follow the main four throughout this adventure. But yeah, lowercase s, because it's not going to kill you to wait on this one. It's not like, oh my god, you got to see this, because you've already seen it. But it's a fun movie. It's taking the characters and going to 20 years later into their lives and how they relate to. They don't even get into like serious relationships outside of work. Uh, there's not a lot. They kind of mention it cursor on the cursory, on the peripheral, about the effect of being a highly driven career woman. I think Miranda Priestley talks about at one point. I think she says something along the lines of, people should know that there's a cost, or whatever. So I don't know. Uh, to be that kind of success, there's a trade off or something. That was her take on it. Um, but really, is there? I don't know. Okay, so um, that's it. Devil Wears Prada 2, rated lowercase s. Catch it on your streaming. Love and light. Peace. Good night.